The MCU has just entered Phase 5 with the recent release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But I'm not quite ready to say goodbye to the previous phase. In all honesty, it would not be an exaggeration to say that Marvel's Phase 4 saved my life. In fact, I even believe this phase holds the power to save anyone's life. So, before officially moving on to the next phase of the MCU, I want to take the time to unpack the ways in which this collection of seemingly disconnected projects saved my life, and how it can save yours too. At the same time, I hope to evaluate the underlying connective tissue of Phase 4 through its themes to come up with a definitive answer as to what this phase was really all about. Now, Marvel has truly become a massive brand, with countless people attempting to decipher the hidden meaning of Phase 4. Many of these people claim that the studio has lost its ability to tell an interconnected narrative, citing the lack of character crossovers or the minimal impact of events from one project to the other as key signs of Marvel's failure in storytelling. While these are valid criticisms when comparing to past phases, particularly the deeply connected Phase 3, I don't believe it was Marvel's intention to replicate its past with Phase 4. Nor do I believe that this phase lacks connectivity. In fact, many before me have already revealed a variety of themes that connect each of Phase 4's projects into an overarching message. I chose to focus on 3 of these themes: expansion, grief, and identity, to prove that this phase was not trying to tell a story of wild crossovers, but rather, Marvel wanted to take a step back and teach us how to grow as individuals, using their wide array of beloved characters, settings, and stories, while also setting the stage for a future of Marvel storytelling, more complex than ever before. And, returning to my initial statement, it's through this fresh approach that Marvel's Phase 4 has the power to save lives. Before we get started, I want to hear from you too. So let me know what your favorite project of Phase 4 is, down in the comments below.
Multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
It's no secret that Phase 4 is the MCU's most expansive phase yet. But what exactly does that mean? And why is that important? Let's start by considering the types of projects in the phase. This is the first time that the MCU has fully integrated shows and special presentations into its storytelling. This has made Phase 4 by far the largest phase in the MCU yet, with a total of 7 movies, 8 shows, and 2 special presentations, making for a runtime that exceeds all 3 prior phases combined. This large runtime allowed for Phase 4 to extend its reach, with brand new stories, locations, and protagonists unlike any before. Projects like Loki and Spider-Man: No Way Home have introduced us to the multiverse, which opens up the MCU to infinite possibilities of storytelling. The cosmic and street-level corners also saw expansions that will lead to their own overarching narratives, with projects like Eternals and Hawkeye. Phase 4 has even introduced the supernatural corner of the MCU, with projects like Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night. We can see that, for the first time, the MCU has chosen to focus on various interconnected, but distinctly separate narratives, rather than a single overarching story. allowing them to explore more areas of the Marvel Universe or multiverse than ever before. This wider approach also allows the MCU to explore more characters than ever before, which leads to what I believe is at the core of Phase 4's expansion: a dedication to character diversity. Stan Lee famously stated, "Marvel has always been, and will be, a reflection of the world outside your window." This is a powerful quote, which sums up my personal interest in Marvel, as it demonstrates their greatest strength: the ability to represent real human emotions, reactions, and characteristics, in a universe that features fantasy and sci-fi elements, alongside our real-world struggles and wonders. In order to accomplish this mission statement, the MCU has begun the process of expanding its universe to better reflect the diversity of the real world. This allows anyone to see themselves as a hero, while also allowing us to learn from those who we may not initially relate to. In fact, being exposed to the more diverse group of Phase 4 heroes likely improves our ability to interact with diversity in the real world as well. As further proof, a study conducted at the University of North Carolina showed that film can succeed as an educational tool to facilitate learning about and learning to respect other cultures. At the end of the day, everyone is human, with similar hopes and fears, but also key differences that must be addressed to improve everyone's lives. Marvel Studios have recognized this and taken the proper steps towards spreading this message to its wide audience. Character diversity even opens up Marvel's audience to all new people who are excited to see themselves represented in superhero media, often for the first time. It brings me so much joy to look on as young girls have a wide array of superhero women to aspire to be like, to witness the Asian community celebrate their first mainstream superhero, and to watch as countless other people rejoice when they see themselves reflected on screen. Of course, there's still work to be done. I know I'm still waiting for Marvel's first trans superhero to show up. But I believe we should honor the steps that have been taken, as we look towards a bright future of even more diverse characters across expansive settings and narratives. Because anyone can be a hero.
I've never experienced loss because I've never had a loved one to lose. But what is grief, if not love persevering?
Grief is perhaps the most obvious theme of Phase 4, with Richie Palmer, production and development head at Marvel, stating that Phase 4 is a reaction to the trauma of Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. This confirms that Phase 4 was created with grief, the usual response to trauma, as its central theme. But I believe it goes deeper than just the grief that came out of the previous Avengers films. Thinking back to the theme of expansion, we discussed the fact that Phase 4's massive runtime allowed a variety of stories, characters, and settings to be explored. This is also the case with grief. In every project within this phase, there are at least one, often multiple, examples of characters dealing with grief in a variety of ways and for a variety of reasons. The structure of the MCU is precisely what makes its exploration of grief unique. It's able to explore several categories of grief over large amounts of time, allowing the audience to gain a deeper understanding of these categories and their outcomes. George A. Bonanno, leading expert in the field of grief and trauma, describes 4 common paths that people take when dealing with grief. I want to look at these 4 paths and show that Phase 4, through its many characters, brings us on a journey to understanding these trajectories of grief. With recovery, someone would experience a trauma that then results in a period of depressive symptoms. But the individual gradually returns to their regular functioning. Characters that fall under this category experience a great loss in their life. But with the help of therapy, friends, family, or their individual methods, they're able to surpass their grief and reach a stable condition where they can continue their lives in a healthy manner. These characters show us that we can get better with the proper support, even when we are feeling deep in grief. Someone who experiences delayed grief maintains regular functioning immediately after a loss, but develops symptoms of grief later on. The characters that fall under this category attempt to ignore their grief by diving into their work, or they may ignore their grief by living a life separate from reminders of their loss. However, grief manages to catch up to them, either through a forced reminder of their loss, additional loss causing the built-up grief to flood out, or simply an inability to truly move past their grief. Each of these characters struggles to continue functioning normally in the face of their returned grief, often making dire mistakes to overcome their sorrows that can even lead to their downfall. However, with the proper support and space to grieve, there is a path to recovery for most of them. These characters teach us that we don't need to hide from our grief, but rather face it in order to truly function to the best of our ability. When we allow our grief to consume us, we reach chronic dysfunction, which is defined as prolonged inability to function regularly as a result of grief. Characters here spend most of their time attempting to deal with their grief by seeking revenge on those that caused their loss, focusing on a singular goal to alleviate their loss, or being unable to maintain stability due to loss of control. Many of these characters neglect the other roles in their lives, hurting their family, friends, and especially themselves. However, with enough support and accountability, several of these characters are able to redeem their mistakes, forgive themselves, and even find the path towards recovery. These characters remind us that it's never too late to recover, and that it's okay to feel trapped by grief and to make mistakes because of it. Anyone can heal, and anyone can seek redemption. Lastly, we have resilience. The ability for people to maintain regular functioning when exposed to trauma. The characters here experience a wide range of loss: death of a loved one, fractured sense of self or purpose, impending death, or intergenerational trauma from family or culture. Despite their losses, these characters are able to navigate their grief in a way that allows them to not only maintain regular functioning, but often become even stronger. Most of these characters come out of Phase 4 having taken on new heroic positions, leadership roles, or strengthening their bonds with family and friends. These characters teach us that grief and loss can empower us to be stronger than we ever were before.
Show him who you are.
Throughout Phase 4, characters grappled with changes to their identity. Heroes were created, leaders emerged, new paths were found, and sometimes, all was lost. At the center, there was one question. Who am I supposed to be? Nearly every character struggled with this question. But that makes sense, considering this is a question that every person struggles with in their life, making this another way that Marvel characters represent true humanity. And, once again, Phase 4 excels in its ability to explore various answers to this question due to its large number of characters and scenarios. Let's look deeper at a few of these characters. Wanda Maximoff has a tragic journey throughout Phase 4. Initially trapped by her grief, she struggles to find her own identity separate from the loved ones who she loses over and over again. Eventually, she embraces her role as the Scarlet Witch. But this is just an identity placed upon her, rather than one chosen. She uses her power to explore the multiverse, once again searching for the people she lost. Her inability to find peace in her own identity leads to her downfall, as in one final redemptive action, she sacrifices herself to protect the multiverse from the evils she unleashed. Sam Wilson begins this phase giving up the shield and position of Captain America, but quickly regretting his decision. He grapples with what it means to accept becoming the symbol of America as a black man in a country that has caused and continues to cause harm to the black community. Ultimately, reflecting on various opinions and with the support of his family, Sam takes up the responsibility, becoming Captain America. At the start of this phase, Peter Parker grieves his old life as he struggles to be Peter and Spider-Man simultaneously after having his secret identity exposed. After accidentally breaking the multiverse, losing his only family member, and meeting alternate versions of himself, Peter finally finds his path forward. He follows his aunt's dying words, taking responsibility for his mistake, as he saves the universe by sacrificing everyone's knowledge of Peter Parker, leaving Spider-Man as his only self. Kamala Khan begins her journey as a superhero mega fan, daydreaming of becoming more than the perfect child her mother pushes her to be. After gaining powers, Kamala learns the truth of her heritage and brings multiple generations of Khan women together across time and space in order to heal their intergenerational trauma. This allows her to accept support from everyone in her life to become the hero of Jersey City, Miss Marvel. When we first catch up with Thor, he's aimlessly adventuring with the Guardians of the Galaxy, avoiding dealing with his loneliness and grief over the many losses he experienced. When Thor returns to Asgard to stop Gorr's god-killing quest, he's shocked to find his ex-girlfriend and ex-hammer united as the mighty Thor, a reflection of who he once was. Thor finally confronts his past, rekindling with Jane Foster, and recognizing the god's flaws. Thus, with Jane's encouragement at the time of her death, Thor takes on a new role as father to Gorr's resurrected child, becoming a new kind of god and new kind of hero. Lastly, Shuri dives into her work to avoid her grief after losing her brother T'Challa. Her mother attempts to help her grief, but Namor and Talokan's arrival causes Shuri to lose her mother as well, pushing her to a purely vengeful mindset. She nearly causes Wakanda's destruction, but finally allowing herself to feel grief, she connects with her mother, who reminds her who she is. Shuri spares Namor's life, ending the war with Talokan to form a powerful alliance, as she realizes her responsibilities as defender of Wakanda. She ends the phase accepting her grief, surrounded by her remaining loved ones, and taking the position of her brother's successor as the Black Panther. Examining these characters' unique journeys side by side, we can decipher a pattern in Phase 4's exploration of identity. Each of these characters had to manage their grief in an ever-expanding world in order to successfully find their identity. In fact, that is the secret of Phase 4. Not one of these themes that we've discussed stands alone, but rather, it is through their connectivity that we gain a full picture of what Phase 4 is all about. It is about the many ways in which people navigate grief in a world far larger than any one of us, in order to find who we are meant to be.
And if you saved one life, well, you saved the world.
Now that we've figured out exactly what Phase 4 is about, let's return to my initial statement to answer, how did Phase 4 save me? And how can it save us all? Reflecting on the three themes we explored, particularly the ways they intersect, the answer becomes clear. This phase is a growth phase, where the characters and audience alike can learn to deal with their grief in healthy ways, to appreciate the value of diversity and expansion, and figure out what is needed to find our place in the world through it all. Phase 4 could not have come out at a more perfect time. In fact, its themes are likely a result of the time period in which it was made. Right as this phase was set to begin, the COVID-19 pandemic shut down the globe, causing the phase to repeatedly get pushed back and reworked. During its delay, the world suffered an unprecedented economic decline, countless outbreaks of violence and discrimination, an unparalleled mental health crisis, and widespread misinformation confusing the masses, on top of the spread of the deadly disease itself. The world was grieving, the world was expanding, and the world had lost its sense of self. The time was right for Marvel to step up and remind us how to survive. Let's go through my experience as an example. In the first year of the pandemic, I had burnt out, dropped out of school, left my jobs, detached from my friends, and sunk into a deep depression. In short, I had lost everything. I was able to stay afloat with the help of my family, my new kitty Simba, and a lot of therapy. But it wasn't until January 2021 that I could see the way out. That's when WandaVision released. I fell in love with the show, and it became my light, showing me that I wasn't alone, and teaching me that it was okay to feel stuck. Throughout the next 2 years, I would continue to struggle, falling in and out of depression, unpacking my past trauma, and learning to deal with my chronic anxiety. Since I would sometimes be left without a therapist or have a small falling out with my family, there were only 2 positive constants in my life. My kitty Simba and Marvel. With each new project, Marvel brought me a new lesson and a new perspective. Some taught me new ways to deal with my grief. Others warned me of the dangers that come from unmanaged grief. At times, I could see myself reflected on screen in ways I'd never seen before. Other times, I gained a deep insight into the lives of those different from me. Throughout, I learned that I can be a hero, a leader even. My trauma and place in the wide world does not have to limit who I can be. Most of all, Marvel showed me that I'm never alone. Whenever I feel alone, I can think back to the characters of Phase 4, and the ways I connect to each of them. I can relate to Wanda's trauma, Kamala's passion, Peter's conflict, Shuri's grief, Thor's love, Jen's determination, and every emotion in between. When I feel trapped, Marvel allows me to visit areas of the world, universe, multiverse even, that I otherwise wouldn't be able to. I learned that I live in a world of infinite possibilities that I'm eager to explore. Through all these lessons and more, Phase 4 allowed me to grow out of the dark mindset I was stuck in, and gave me what I needed to survive. Hope. I could continue detailing each little way that Marvel helped me survive, but my story's just one of many. The lessons I learned can be applied in an infinite number of ways, allowing each individual who watches this phase to take exactly what they need out of it. Grief, expansion, and identity are themes that we all deal with in our life. But we deal with them in different ways, just like the characters of Phase 4. That's the power of this phase. It didn't want to tell one story. It wanted to tell every story, or at least show a wide range of stories, to remind us that everyone has a story worth living. During a time when so many felt lost, Phase 4 taught us many ways to grow emotionally and mentally, so that we can take control of our stories and become the people we want to be. And in a world that so often fights against us, that's how we survive. Hi again! Wow, I can't believe this video is done. It's been in the works for several months now, and truthfully, it's a big reason for why I made this channel in the first place. Well, anyways, I hope you all enjoyed it or got something out of it, and if you did enjoy it, check out the channel trailer right up here to find out what other videos are going to be up. And if you're watching from the future, make sure to check out any of the other videos up on the channel. Well, until next time, bye!